There are some couples that are pretty much endgame from the start. And for Superman, that's his relationship with Lois Lane, dating all the way back to the 1940s. Nay, all the way back to when he debuted. Way back, golden age things. But that doesn't mean that people, including creators, don't like to try out other permutations. What about these other pairings? Shipping is not just for fanfiction. It's just when people do it officially, it's not called that. Unless they do it badly, because people like to use fanfiction as a pejorative, which is unfair. There's a lot of good fanfiction out there. A lot of bad, but also a lot of good. But now when it comes to alternate pairings for Superman in the comic realm, that tends to mean Wonder Woman. But what about when it comes to Lois Lane? Well, when that happens, we tend to get two pairings. One, Bruce Wayne / Batman, and two, Lois Lane and Lex Luthor. Quadruple L. Superman better watch out. Yes, I know Lex's name is actually Alexander. Let me have this. It's fun. We're having fun. We've encountered Lois marrying Lex a couple of times on this channel, on the many journeys of Lois marrying people who aren't Superman. We have a whole playlist. We had one in the early Silver Age, and that even had a sequel, and then we had one later in the mid. The first time it was with a reformed Lex, the next with an evil one, but who would have reformed for her? But then she turned evil for a bit, and she kept them criminals. It was tragic. That one still hurts. Today, we're in the Bronze Age. Once more, Lois Lane is getting married. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and it's time for some Lois Lane antics. It's been a while. There's never too much Lois. Today our story doesn't come to us from Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane, but don't you worry, still has our fave, or well, my fave, maybe one of your fave, Lois Lane's artist, Kurt Schaffenberger, the creator of the devious, cunning Lois face. I'd know those wicked Lois expressions anywhere. He even has a guide to do them. Not all heroes wear capes. Now you may be wondering, why is Lois marrying Lex this time? And will Superman be the best man? This story is the cheat the whole world cheered, and is the cover feature and first story of Superman Family number 172. This was the anthology book that Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane and Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen were rolled into post their cancellation, and continued on with Jimmy's numbering because he was the further along of the two. And then it sounds good when you see it on the newsstands, or when you saw it on the newsstands. Ooh, look, issue 100 and something, this must be good. Or just, maybe you're just intrigued. Maybe you saw this cover and had to know. This story was written by Cary Bates, someone who pops up a bit on this channel. As for this one, The Cheat the World Cheered, that title does not roll off the tongue as much as it seems they meant it to. That story came from the year 1975, so we're in the Bronze Age. So this story is a bit of a throwback energy to some of those Silver Age stories, because in the Bronze Age we're into more realistic, in quotes, storytelling, along with more emotionally resonant, or playing a bit more with the emotional fallout and pathos of characters. Superman has also been moving out of his super dickery days to be a more well-rounded, less manipulative, especially in romance with Lois, hero. So it's fascinating to read this tale when compared with Lex Marriage's past, or rather should I say Lois Marriage's past? Both of them with each other. Enough build up, let's do it. The cheat the whole world cheered.
Out of my way, Jimmy, I've got to stop Lois from marrying Luthor.
Too late, Superman, it's all over. You can see all the other romances this issue has to offer. Look at that banner. Supergirl gets the kiss of death. Jimmy Olsen is warned, love me, love my beast. That sounds so just raunch. I know the story they're referring to and they don't mean that, but being on the internet since age 13 has ruined me. Side note, can we give a props to Lex for keeping the getting married in my hero / villain outfit tradition alive?
Have all my friends flipped? Perry, Jimmy, Steve, everyone hailing that villainous Lex Luthor as some kind of hero, and worse still, Lois is at his side.
Superman leaves Earth one morning only to learn on his return that he's been replaced by, of all people, a man who only yesterday was feared and hated. But the most startling shock of all is yet to come, when Lois Lane reveals to Superman the secret of the cheat the whole world cheered. You see, this is why you can't just go to space for everything, leave some of the space for Green Lanterns, Hal at this point. You leave to go touch a purple dragon, you come back and Lex has stolen your girl. Maybe some cakes. We open on Lois looking 70s fabulous, being congratulated on her good news. Even though we know what it is because we saw the cover and read the teaser page, the story still plays coy. So we get the buildup of, ooh, what's her good news? And we learn that it's an engagement. But to who? After your bombshell announcement last night, Lois, I decided a little celebration was in order. You should see the look on your face, Lois. You've dashed the hopes of every bachelor in town. I've read enough Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane to know that that last statement is true. There are people jumping off the tops of buildings, people crying into their cups. The DC universe is shattered. I have to say, her colleagues at this engagement, they're still making it a lot about them. Psst, Lois. Remember a few years ago when my rival on the other network held a famous singer's wedding live on his talk show in front of 30 million viewers? Oh no, you don't, Johnny Nevada. If this was 2023, he'd be asking to stream it. Although, that would get a lot of views. Maybe she should do it. Ask for a cut. You know who's not here to celebrate? Clark. Because he's too busy clearing a path for ships in the North Pole? Yes? When Clark does show up, we get some little teasing of, ooh, maybe it's him, just the way they talk to each other, but then we get our reveal. Who is she engaged to?
Attention everyone, we're about to unveil a big surprise. The life-size oil of Lois and her future husband, Lex Luthor.
She announced her engagement last night. Where did you get that?
It's a painting that had to be commissioned.
And also, just poor idea with how Lois goes through engagements and marriages in this series. Might have to put that in the back with all the others. So yes, Lois is engaged to Lex, and I'm very bothered by how uncoordinated their outfits are in that picture.
That's the true reason it's not meant to be.
It's just super. And how handsome my darling Lex is. Notice how the artist accurately captured all the details of his new uniform.
You two certainly would look great on my show. Oh my god, she doesn't want to stream it. Step off.
Sorry, broadcast it. Still, step off. Also note, handsome, the most important trait for this era of Lois. You can pretty much treat these as Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane stories because had the book not been canceled, that's where they would have been. That book had a 16-year run. At one point, it was in the top 3 sellers. People couldn't get enough of Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane. But the festive spirit isn't unanimous.
I can't keep this up, pretending I'm happy Lois is going to marry the man who was once my deadliest enemy.
It's flashback time. We have to go back to the beginning of our romance. 22 days ago. 22 days to go from Superman to Lex Luthor. For Lois, sounds about right. In fact, that might be too many days. Why did it take her so long? So 22 days ago, the satellites surrounding the Earth were suddenly engulfed in mysterious green energy that was going to send them hurtling from the sky, plummeting to the Earth. Scientists put out a very panic-inducing broadcast, predicting that the falling satellites will poison the atmosphere, killing all life on Earth. Next, you won't believe these cats who love to swim in pools. No, next has been that there have been attempts to contact Superman, but they can't find him. I don't know, he's off playing Connect 4 in space or something. And the rest of the league are somewhere. The point is, there's no one there to save the Earth. But you may also be wondering, hey, those satellites are pretty green. Is that kryptonite? Why isn't it kryptonite? That's a great reason to have Superman not be around. Well, it's because by this point, this is 1975. So in 1971, we'd already had the Kryptonite No More storyline, where all the kryptonite had become iron. It was one of many of the Bronze Age changes to Superman to try and depower him a bit and also desilify him under the eyes of Julius Schwartz. Just remove things that he felt were a bit too juvenile. And kryptonite, thanks to all the variations and permutations and the types of stories, it fell into that category. I was about to say was deemed as such and then said it fell into that category instead, and it got awkward. I'm keeping it in. It's that kind of video. But you can tell this story really wishes these satellites were kryptonite, and that would have been a better reason to have Superman out of commission than he's just not there, okay, Jan? He's doing stuff, Lori, things. Panic, of course, sets in because of how they announced this. Lois, who was doing some interviews at the jail, ends up getting a first row seat to Lex offering to save the world because it's where he keeps his stuff, and also, can he get a full pardon, please?
A trick, Warden. Don't I breathe the same air as you do? If the atmosphere is poisoned, I die along with everyone else. Come along, Miss Lane. As a reporter, you can record for posterity my gallant efforts to save the world. If I fail, it'll be your last effort too. What a sales pitch. Pulitzer or death.
Lex's plan? It's not bad. They spend a lot of time trying to make it credible because that's how we're working with science in this early Bronze Age. No more off-the-wall science. We want slightly questionable but also slightly plausible science. He's built a time dispenser, not a time displacer, dispenser. And when it's shot at something, anything caught in the ray is sent forward a year. So the plan is hit the satellites. They'll go forward a year to where they were. And by that point, Earth will be in a different part of space. Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. Sounds good. Does it make the most sense? Maybe, maybe not, but it sounds good.
Not for everyone. For some, this may be incredibly triggering or off-putting.
He takes Lois with him to do this, and he ends up getting knocked out while they're going, and so she has to land the jet because she has a pilot license. Silver/Bronze Age Lois had many, many skills. It's just sometimes they fell behind getting a husband. But they were there. Poor man. He looks so peaceful. It's hard to believe he's the ruthless criminal the whole world's condemned. But after this, maybe, just maybe, there's some good in Luthor after all. Remember this panel. Put a pin in it. Big pin. Along with what happens after they land. They're both so thrilled that they saved the planet, they just get caught up in the moment and kissing ensues. Kissing. What did I do? For a minute there, I was carried away with gratitude. Don't apologize. The pleasure was all mine. They don't show who initiated this kiss, but it's pretty heavily implied that it was Lois. Get your pin. Pin. But all of a sudden Superman shows up and assumes the worst. He didn't see the kiss, but he just sees them staying together and figures Lex is up to something, and so he tries to grab him and take him to jail. How dare you, Superman? Let him go. Luthor's done nothing wrong.
Have you flipped, Lois? He's supposed to be behind bars serving a life sentence. For so many crimes, it would take hours to list them all. Look at Lex's face. Oh, that's the face of a man who just wants to mess with Superman any way possible.
I can't let you hold a free man.
You should know better. Green Lantern, Luthor's an enemy of the people.
Not anymore, but I guess I'll have to prove it to you.
I love sassy Hal and Superman from this time.
It's surprise Hal Jordan. Why is he there? Why was he so closely behind Superman? What were they doing? Were they not saving the world together? From that day, 22 days ago, their courtship was on. A whirlwind of horse and buggy rides, galas, and feeding pigeons by the fountain. That's all pretty great. And sure, he's handsome, but is he super? That's the other criteria. When Lex saves her from a kidnapping, even though she was already holding her own pretty well, it's official. Superman who?
Correct, Superman. Ever since that day I saved the world, I've been a changed man. During all my years as a criminal, I never dreamed what it could be like to be regarded as a hero. To enjoy the gratitude of millions, to have my name honored in every country of the world, to see people welcoming me instead of cringing. At last, I found my true aim in life, Superman. To become as great a man as you. Lois, you and I have things to do. We'll leave the Man of Steel to deliver those two killers to the law.
No doubt about it. Lois and Luthor are well into the serious stage.
Clark's been here before. He knows what the serious stage looks like. He'll clear his calendar.
So far it's looking pretty good, but you know we need to revert to the status quo. How are we going to accomplish this? That's the fun part. We get to see how creative they get with it. Firstly, things start to get a little odd. Lex has decided, you know what? Let's do the broadcast in front of millions of people. And they need to do it tomorrow night. They can organize that fast. Look at how fast they got them that painting. Later that afternoon outside Lois's apartment.
Until tomorrow, dearest. Do you really think Superman will agree to be my best man?
He's always been a good sport, darling. Ask him.
But later,
since this is my last night as a single girl, there are a few things I want to tell Superman I may not get a chance to say later. Dear Superman, you had your chance. I chose Lex because I knew it would hurt you the most. I can't wait to make eye contact with you as I say I do at the wedding while you're holding the rings behind him. Sincerely, your ex-girlfriend, Lois Lane.
That's not what it says. Let me have my fun.
Also, the phrasing of the best man panel.
He's always been a good sport. Might as well say he's always said yes all those other times.
Okay, brace yourself. Steady on. Get ready for the whiplash. Get secure. That night, someone breaks into Lex's brownstone and it's... dun dun dun, Lois.
My pretty bride-to-be. Now let me see if I can guess why you broke in. Could it possibly retrieve these? Miniature tape recorders, electronic bugging devices, mini cameras operated by remote control. I found them secreted all over the house, in my car, even hidden in most of my clothes. You were spying on my every move.
Right from the start, Luthor. You might have fooled the rest of the world with that reformed routine, but not me. I'll lay odds that end of the world threat was arranged by your henchman.
She bugged his clothes? Lois goes hard.
Now, but hold on a minute. Let's go back to that first pin. Remember that panel with the bubble about how maybe there's some good in him after all? If you want to pull the whole she's always been suspicious, because they did draw her looking a bit kind of questioning when he announced he wanted to do this in that panel, you can't have a fake out thought bubble. That's just downright deceptive and misleading. Not cool. Also, wasn't there another way for her to figure this out? This seems like a pretty dangerous and extra way. Is straight to the honeypot the first option? Now, of course she's right, because it is Lex.
But imagine if she'd been wrong. She's driven him back to a life of crime as his heart shatters upon learning she never loved him.
Although based on how he was speaking, I'm pretty sure he was suspicious of her too. This was not a great relationship. You might as well kill me, because I'd rather die than go through with the wedding.
I'm afraid you don't have that choice, my darling.
Dang, that got dark real fast. So he gasses her with this kind of hypnosis gas, and then she has to go through, and she can't say anything. She's just gonna be completely out of it.
You see this little attachment? After the ceremony, I'll point it at my best man.
Aw, Superman said yes, of course he did.
And its invisible beam will compel Superman to reveal his real name in front of 80 million people.
That's optimistic. They think they're gonna pull those numbers? That's pretty good.
At last, I finally managed to steal Superman's two most treasured possessions, his girlfriend and his secret identity. Revenge was never sweeter.
Excuse me? She's not a prize to be won?
She's a honeypot trying to get your secrets? Also prized possession? Have you been hanging out in the pages of Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane? Superman treats her terribly.
So pin 2 confirmed. Lois instigated this kiss.
So awkward. This whole thing's so awkward.
And so they get married on TV. So this Lois wedding happens. We get an I do, even though they find a way to make it that they didn't really get married, but we saw it. This is a pretty official Lois wedding.
Oh, Superman. Always the groomsman, never the groom.
But at least he never has to rent a tux, because everybody wants to come in his Superman uniform. So that's a bonus. Win-win, except for his heartbreaking.
May I kiss the bride?
Certainly. But first, don't you have an announcement for all the viewers out there? Superman?
And the ray is pointed, but psych, Superman swapped with somebody else. What was that?
Anyway, he swapped with someone, so it's not really him.
identity safe. Lex just had to wait a couple of decades, and then Superman would do it later as some kind of poor allegory for coming out. You just gotta play the waiting game, Lex.
You're wasting your time, Luthor. Nothing can stand up to the real thing.
Keep your cool, Superman, and let me do the honors. After all, he's my husband. I was so tempted to say a choke there, just give a good old-fashioned choke, but it didn't seem like the time. Also, that was a hard Captain Kirk-style karate chop. Lex is probably dead.
Relax, Lois. The wedding wasn't legal. The minister was only an actor. After I got your letter this morning, I decided it would be wise to take precautions.
Yes, that letter that she wrote was full of warnings to Superman about her suspicions. But if you're like me, you may be wondering, why didn't she just tell Superman right away and have him investigate? Why go through all of this? Did she just really want to date Lex? Does he take people to really nice places? Probably. The reason is, so you'd warn me it was too dangerous? I want to expose Luthor my own way.
And it almost ruined your life. I'm angry enough to...
To what? I'm concerned. Probably spank her, but also that's very threatening. Blink twice if you need help, Lois. Her plan was to seduce Lex all along. But why, though? They're so dysfunctional, her and Superman here. Her relationship with Lex was going better despite being built on a bed of lies, but how different is that than her and Superman's relationship here either? The only difference is he's not a supervillain. Yet. Lex actually took her out on dates and proposed to her. What a flimsy way to get out of this. I think the Lexo and Lois arc is still the strongest of the Lois marries Lex stories, but this was still entertaining. The twist was chef's kiss and how it came out of absolutely nowhere and smacked you across the face, brick to the nose. Not in the fact that you couldn't see that something like that was coming and that Lex was still up to no good or that Lois was investigating it. It was the execution, her sneaking in the full white ninja outfit, him ripping the mask off. Just wow. Superman was right too. It was too dangerous. All of this could have been avoided. There were so many other ways to go about this. I also kind of want to know, was Lex actually into her? Did he always know she was investigating him? When did he decide that he was going to do this whole Superman reveal? Was it before he found the bugs or after? I want more details. DC Comics can't stay away from this pairing, and I, for one, am right there every time they decide to pull it out. It's an interesting idea, and this was a very classic tropey throwback Lois Gets Married story. It doesn't have the heart of some of the others, but it certainly is entertaining. It's a good addition to the Lois Marries Lex Chronicles and to this playlist. Why do you think Lois was so keen on the whole let's seduce Lex plan? Share all your thoughts down below, and while you're down there, please do all YouTube things like share, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking a minute to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.